Hey guys, this is Kelly from Seven's Emporium, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on doing double-sided pages. Whenever I'm going to do a double-sided page, I go ahead and hoop my stabilizer, and I go ahead and run the first step of the design. Okay, so here I am at the machine, and I have pulled up my design. Now my hoop is big enough I'm going to do two, but these steps would be exactly the same if you were only going to do one. I have made mine the same color, but I've put in a stop in between, so it's going to sew the outline and then it's going to stop and wait for me to add my fabric. So I'm going to go ahead on this first page, whatever is going to be, actually it's going to be what is the back of your page. You'll end up sewing what's going to be on the back of your page first, and later on you'll sew the front of your page. On this one, I have taken off the final outline and the holes because I don't need them. If I didn't have software and I couldn't take those things off, I would just skip those when it came time to do that. I would stitch my single stitch outline, then I would stop the machine, then I would put my fabric on, and then I would just stitch my design. So I'm going to do that and show you where we get to from there. Okay, so I have run my single stitch outline. Okay, so here we are, and I have now stitched what's going to be the back of my page. After I have stitched these, I turn this over to the back and I actually trim this. Don't do this from the front because you'll accidentally cut the edges of your page off and you don't want to do that. But I trim this down. Okay, so here we are at the machine, and we now have what's going to be the front of our page loaded up on the machine. When you do the front, you'll need to leave the page as it is, where it has the single outline. Then it's going to do your design in the middle, and then it's going to do the bean stitch outline, and it's going to do the holes. You'll need to leave that page as it is. The front page, or well, it's going to be the back page, the first page that you do, is the only one where you're going to skip doing the last two steps. Okay, so here we are. We're now doing what's going to be the front of our page, and we're going to repeat exactly what we did on the other page. I have run the single outline. Now I'm going to put my fabric down. And you could absolutely use tape when you do this if you don't want to use basting spray. As you can see, I wind up using a little bit of tape anyway, but I like, and I'm a little heavier on this than normal, but I like using the basting spray just because I think it helps keep some of it from shifting. And now I'm going to go run the front of my page. Okay, so here we are, and we have stitched what's going to be the front of our page. So this is the part that people get confused about, is how to line up the front and the back. So here is the back of the hoop, and that's where you're going to put the back of your page. This is the page that you stitched first and you trimmed it out. So what I'm going to do is, put my spray down. Again, if you just want to use tape, you're welcome to use tape. I peel this kind of back like this so I can see this line. And I'm going to look through. I can see through my stabilizer. I can't show you guys that I can see through, but I can see through. And I'm going to line these two lines up. And I'm going to look on the bottom, and I'm going to make sure it's lined up on the bottom as well. And you can even, if you want, when you get it on there, you can fold it all up right there and make sure, are the lines touching? You want this to be as exact as you can. Now, the reason that we didn't stitch a line on top is because if it's off a little bit, you're going to be able to see that. But because we did our placement lines on the backs, just on the stabilizer, it's going to be hidden from the front. I'm going to take a second and talk about the holes on the pages in relation to the designs. If you're doing a design where the design is in the middle of the page, it's not going to matter if this page is the front or the back because the holes will fit on either side. If you were going to do a design like this monster, for example, because of how wide he was and where the holes in the page are, and I can't move the placement of the holes or they won't all fit together. So I kind of, when I make these, I have to make the design fit the holes. If I were to try to do this design and make this be the back of a page and put the holes on this other side, it would not work. This one down here on the bottom would work, but up here at the top it wouldn't. It would actually put the hole in his horn, and then when you punch the hole out, you're going to be disrupting that thread and you're going to be cutting it, and so it could fray and come loose. I was just kind of glancing over most of these. Most of them are going to be in a situation where you could put the holes on either side and it's not really going to matter. To be honest, when I was doing these pages, I hadn't really thought too much about it, or I would maybe have considered a little bit more that they were sort of centered in the page. Some of them are closer to the bottom or to the right of the page than they are the top or the left. Like this little dog, I'm pretty certain that if you try to put these holes down here, it's going to wind up putting this one in his foot. So I say all that to say this. If you're doing a double-sided page, consider where the design is on the page and figure out if you can put that page on the back. If you have one where you can't move the holes and one where you can, then the one where you can move the holes, definitely put that one on the back. Like I said, if I was doing, no, I would never do this, but if I was going to do this on one side and this on another side, obviously this would have to be on the front of the page or the second design that I stitched. And if I was going to do this one, she could actually be on the back of a page, because if the holes were on this side to her, it's not going to make any difference. And I hope that that makes some sense, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that when you're deciding what pages to use, kind of double check that, because sometimes they cannot be used on the back because of where the holes will be. They'll cut into the design. Okay, so here we are, and I have stitched the back of my page. Here's the front, here's the back. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of trim this a little bit. Alright, so now that I have my page stitched out, I'm going to go ahead and put my holes in it. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I have a crocodile, and I like this a lot for doing holes. It has a spot right up here on the top where you can put the page edge in there and do the hole. Or if you happen to have a big press, you can actually get a die for this that will do a hole. I do my little hole and I give it a little twist. Sometimes they come out all the way, sometimes they don't. But that's how you do a double-sided coloring page.